Hi, friends. So today I am talking about the winning strategy for new resellers, especially those that are on eBay. That's the platform that I'm on, but really any reselling platform. So I have been back on eBay for about 7 weeks now. I think this is week 7 for me. I had a store 4 or 5 years ago for a little bit over a year, and I had to shut it down, and I reopened it. And whenever you are new at something, you kind of feel like a fish out of water. So the number one part of my strategy is to leverage the strengths you already have. So if you haven't taken a few minutes to do this, at least take 10 to 15 minutes to list all of your strengths. And when I say all of them, I mean absolutely all of them. For example, one of my main strengths is that I am an absolute workhorse. I have a killer work ethic, so I leverage that to the best of my ability. Maybe you are a super organized person, or maybe you have knowledge in a particular area. Now, I have kind of an everything store, but I do focus a lot on clothing, especially vintage and higher end clothing, because I just absolutely love it. And over the decades, I have accumulated a lot of knowledge, and this is all self-study. Like, I don't have a background in fashion or anything. I just have a very keen interest in it. So that's another strength that I leverage to help me build my eBay store. And another skill that really helps me out is that I love analyzing data, and I do have experience with analyzing different types of data. And I know how to use that information to help me set goals and accomplish them. So I use all of those and other skills, and I leverage those to build my business. Now, the second part of this strategy is that you also need to identify the gaps. What are some of the gaps that you have in your knowledge as you're trying to build your eBay store? So, for example, I need to brush up on my label knowledge. I don't have information on the current labels that are really hot right now. So that is something that I have to study and learn on a daily basis. And it's something that I really need to know because clothing is a huge part of my store. Also, another gap that I think that we can probably all relate to is that I am super slow with listing and taking photographs and processing all the things that I thrift. I'm getting faster at it now that I'm at week 7, but it is a gap that I need to continue working on and improving. And then another gap that I have that is important for me and how I'm building my business is to have work-life balance, although I really don't like the term work-life balance. I like the term life harmony much better because, things kind of ebb and flow. Sometimes you have to give a little bit more attention to one thing, and then after you get that situated, then it flows back to being a little more harmonious. So that's really important to me. Now, things are a little bit out of balance or harmony because I'm investing a lot of upfront time in my business as I'm trying to learn a lot of information and build my processes and have all those things in place. And my goal is to have things situated by the end of this year. So I've got a few more weeks ahead of me. Now, after I identify my strengths that I have and I list out the gaps that I need to close, I need to have a way to make sure that I'm setting goals to close those gaps and that I'm using my skills to help me along the way. Now, as a former educator, I will tell you that the most important thing that you need to do to set and reach your goals is to apply things you learn, is the way that you grow the fastest. And the reason a lot of people struggle with this is because they fall into this habit of gathering a lot of information, a lot of data, and they feel like I just need to gain more information. After I learn how to do all these things, then I'll open my eBay store. Or after I learn everything there is to know about freight shipping, then I'll start listing heavier items. I'm kind of afraid to do it right now. And that's not how it works at all. Eventually, you have to apply that knowledge. The only way you're going to grow and then scale is by applying the knowledge that you gain. And also, when you incessantly are learning, it's just information overload, and that creates total overwhelm. And that is another thing that keeps people from starting or from progressing. So here's a strategy that I put in place for me. And when I was coaching people, I put it in place for all of them. And it's to break things down to the simplest steps that you possibly can. So I'm going to give you a very basic example using my store and my goals. And as I'm setting out on telling you how to do this, I also want to say that whenever you put a plan together, it is dynamic. Don't feel like you can't alter it if you need to. So setting goals are wonderful, but if you set a goal and then you find out that, oh my gosh, this is just way too restrictive, or I didn't set the right goal, I need to alter it, do it, alter it, change it. This is your store. You can do with it whatever you want to. So the very first thing that I do is I have one long-term goal. And when I say long-term goal, I'm looking just a few months out. So for me, my current long-term goal is the end of this year. And I set it in August that by the end of the year, I wanted to profit $5,000 with my store. So then that was 5 months, right? I think September, October, November, December. Okay, 4 months because I opened my store in September. So 4 months. So that goal is a little bit further out and it's way too vague. So then I needed to peel it back and set a few midterm goals. And when I say a few, I mean 1 to 3 max, and typically only 1 to 2 because we want to keep this totally achievable. So to meet my goal of having $5,000 in profit, I set a midterm goal to build my store to 500 items progressively by the end of the year. So by the end of December, I want to have a solid 500 plus quality listings in my store. Now, another part of that is kind of a part of the same goal is to source items that are over $20 to $25 in profit on average. So I want to average $20 to $25 in profit per item while thrifting those items at $5 or less. So now that is a progressive goal and that takes weeks. It's going to grow over weeks. So I still need to peel it back a little bit more because what I'm ultimately trying to get down to is what am I doing this week? What am I doing tomorrow? So I'm peeling it back to weekly and daily actions. And knowing that with the holidays and everything going on, we have more than 10 weeks, but I'm giving myself about 10 weeks to achieve these midterm and then long-term goals. So breaking my numbers down even further. So how am I going to get to the 500 plus items in my store? I have about 160 maybe 162 items in my store right now. And so I need 337 more items. I've written that down. So I have 337 items to go, and I'm trying to achieve that within the next 10 or so weeks, 10 to 11 weeks. So that means that I need to be listing 5 to 6 items a day, 6 days a week. And I also need to be sourcing more quality items. So I need to be sourcing 35 to 40 items a week at a $20 to $25 profit. And I have set a schedule that I just started following last week where I am going to specific thrift stores 3 to 4 times a week. And then as I source those 35 to 40 items a week, I also need to be listing that many and hopefully selling that many. So I want to have this total churn of my store where it just keeps on moving, products coming in, products going out. So my listing goal is 5 to 6 items a day. By the end of the week, I need to hit 35 minimum. So if I don't list 5 items today, then I might have to list an extra one tomorrow. And then remember, I said that one of my gaps is that I have some knowledge that I'm lacking with trending labels right now. So I listen to one video a day on labels that are trending right now, and I research them. That means I look them up online, and this totally alters how I approach sourcing items for my store. So when I first reopened my store at the beginning of September, I would go out to thrift and I would be thinking to myself, okay, I need to purchase X number of items while I'm out today. And I was focused on how many items I was purchasing. And it led to me buying some things that weren't great. And still, like every once in a while, I pick up something. I'm like, I get home and I'm like, that just was not a good purchase. So I'm trying to be very, very picky about what I source for my store because I want a certain level of quality in there. And I'm also trying not to be in the high competition, oversaturated areas of clothing. I'm trying to stay out of that huge ocean and I'm trying to get into a smaller pond. And then when I am watching those videos, I keep a spreadsheet of the labels that they're talking about. And sometimes I even put an image in that spreadsheet. And then when I go out, that information is fresh in my mind. And I have to tell you, it's like learning through osmosis in a way. When you are repeating videos over and over, or you're watching the same person talking about what they source, because you tend to source a lot of the same things because you're familiar with it and your eyes are out there. It's kind of like when someone wants to have a baby and all of a sudden they see babies everywhere. Well, when you want to see certain labels, it seems like you're honed in on it and you start seeing it more. For example, I have never seen a Robert Graham in my life out in the wild, and I saw 2 this past week. Now, one wasn't in great shape, but the other one I picked up, and I will put them on the screen so you can see them. So I'm starting to apply this knowledge, and that's the most important part. I found a Varley sweatshirt. Had never even heard of Varley before. Listened about it on a video last week, and the very next day I found one out. And Sandro, had never heard of Sandro Paris before, and I have since seen 2 and picked up one of them. So the more knowledge you gain, the better. So one of the things that I would like to encourage you to do is balance, find this flow between being at home and listing and processing what you have, because you don't want to have a death pile, but also get out and thrift. So I'm trying to be mindful of how much time I'm spending at a store. If I go to a store and I'm there for 2 to 3 hours, that might be the only thrift that I go to that day. And eventually, maybe I will go out and hit 5 stores in one day. But right now, it may only be 1 or 2, and that's fine because I have to find my flow. I'm not just sourcing. I am also coming home and processing it. And that's another thing that I'm doing. So another strength that I have is that people tell me that I'm organized all the time. And quite honestly, I am not an organized person. It is forced organization. I have this creative, big picture, like pieces of things all over the place kind of person. And I get ideas all the time. I have to force myself to be contained and organized because I also just can't operate in chaos. And so I force myself to take an hour out of the end of the day and close down shop and clean up my office and put everything away. I force myself to have spreadsheets that have every single item that I purchase with the price that I bought it at, the price that I'm listing it at, and whether or not it is sold so far. I force myself to come home and immediately take the clothes out and write down what price I bought them at and also start processing them. I have a system that is coming together now where I hang them up and then they are ready for me to clean and to steam and to iron. And then after that, they are ready for me to photograph and to list and then to put away. And I automatically put a label on them. I know where every single item lives. And again, it is not because I'm naturally organized, but it's because I know that I just cannot deal with everything being a mess. So I have to force myself to be an organized person. And, as a teacher, I used to say that the things where you really struggle with as a teacher, you're probably going to be better at those areas, teaching those things. So, for example, I was great at English and reading. I loved English language arts. That was my jam. I could teach it all day long, loved it. Math was not my thing, and I struggled with math when I was in school, but I wanted my students to be successful at it. So I worked extra hard to be the best teacher at math that I possibly could be for my students. So the same thing applies to my eBay store. There's things that I'm naturally good at. I'm naturally good. I have a great eye when I go out and I see things. I can spot a silk dress a mile away and I will pick that puppy up and it is mine. But when it comes to organization, that's not my strong suit. So I try even extra hard to make sure that I'm ultra organized. And I take emotion out of everything. My store is an emotion-free thing, and I'll talk more about that in another video about how I approach things to take decision fatigue out of my business and to stay organized with the decisions that I need to make, because I'm also trying to build systems that help me move fast so I can scale my store, because ultimately I want this to be a full-time business. So what are the long-term goals that you have? Have you set goals? A lot of times people don't set goals. So make sure you set at least one goal today. And then, is that goal big? Does it feel overwhelming to you? What are the ways that you can peel it back to make it feel more achievable? I'm telling you that if you can break things down to where you have it focused on this week, the next day, what's my next immediate step? That's all you have to focus on is your next immediate step. And if you're taking that next step, then all you have to do is take the next one and the next one and the next one. And that is how you build a successful business. So before I go today, I want to share my stats with you, how much I've sold this week. So this past 7 days, I sold $552.99 worth of items, and I netted $342.98, 12 items sold. And this past week, for the first time, I sold at least one thing each day. And most days it was 2 to 3 things. So I hope that this video was helpful to you. And if there's any knowledge that you have to share with us, maybe you're an experienced reseller and some of the things that I'm struggling with right now, or maybe some people down in the comments is struggling with, can you share it with us? Because we are all a body of knowledge, and the more we help one another, the better we all become. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you would like to watch another one just like this, click on this video right over here. Or if you want to watch on a video I made about managing your time well, click on it right here, and I will see you in the next one.